The mic was never supposed to be on. That's the part that keeps replaying in my head, like some glitch in reality. Everyone was laughing, clinking glasses, hyped up from sugar and cheap Prosecco, and then, suddenly, silence. That kind of silence you only hear when something really wrong just happened, but no one knows who should speak first. The music had cut out. Her voice came through clear as glass. I should have told him before, but I think he knows. He's too weak to admit it. People froze, mid-chew, mid-pour. I stood 10 feet away, half covered by a gold foil curtain, holding a plate of dry rotini salad I hadn't even tasted. I mean, I've been sleeping at Cole's place for 2 months now. You think Emory still believes the gym closes at 9:30? There were laughs, software nervous. No one could tell if this was part of the show. I wasn't supposed to hear that. No one was. She thought the mic was off, that her confession was private, just her and her friends in a corner booth. But the PA was live, the whole system. The entire party, my party, heard it echo from the speakers above the dance floor, bouncing off the walls like a secret finally proud of itself. He thinks planning this stupid party makes up for the rest of it. Cute, right? That's when the air went thin. Her friends saw my face before she did. One tried to reach for the mic. Another whispered, "Mallory, Mallory, it's on." She looked up, eyes locking with mine, and in that instant, I saw something I'll never forget. It wasn't guilt, it was irritation. Like I had ruined her moment. I didn't say anything, not a word. I placed the plate gently on the snack table, wiped my fingers on the napkin she had printed with "E is for Emory" in gold lettering, and walked toward the exit. The room didn't stop me. They parted like water. Outside, the sky was bruised with clouds. I walked straight into it without a coat, past rows of parked cars, past the bakery that had made my cake, past the life I thought I was still living. And the worst part? Nobody followed me. I didn't go home that night. I ended up sitting in a closed car wash parking lot for almost 4 hours, just staring at the slow drip of water falling from a broken hose. You know, the kind of silence that isn't peaceful, but too quiet. The kind that makes you think your thoughts are speaking out loud. That was the only thing keeping me company. That, and the echo of her voice rolling around in my skull like a marble in a metal bowl. She said it so casually. "I've been sleeping at Cole's," like she was announcing a change in her skincare routine. Like it didn't matter that the whole room was packed with people from our life. Mutual friends, her sister, my co-workers. Even my manager had been invited. They all heard it, every word. And no one moved. That's the part that's messing with me more than anything else. There wasn't a single gasp. Not one person called out. No one tried to shut off the mic. It was like everyone already knew, except me. That night, I went to a motel 2 towns over. The kind with flickering neon signs and the cigarette burns on the mattress. The kind of place where no one asks questions when you pay in cash and keep your head down. I lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to retrace every moment from the last 6 months. When did she stop touching me like she meant it? When did she start sleeping with her phone under her pillow? When did she start going to therapy on Saturdays? And how did I miss all of it? The next morning, I checked my phone. I had 6 texts. 4 were from numbers I didn't recognize, all saying some variation of "sorry you had to find out like that," or "she did you dirty, man." One was from my cousin Anthony. All he wrote was, "You good?" The last was from her. Just a single line. You weren't supposed to hear that. No apology, no explanation, just that. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I was still picturing her face, lit up by party lights and attention, holding that mic like it was a trophy. And Cole, whoever the hell he is, standing there like the prize she finally won. Like I was the fool who held her purse while she shopped for something better. Here's what nobody tells you about betrayal. It doesn't feel like fire. It feels like static, like your whole body turns to background noise and your brain forgets how to tell time. I went back to the house that afternoon, but I didn't go inside. I sat in the driveway, engine off, watching the curtains. They moved like someone was inside, like someone was watching me watching them. But nobody came out. There were balloons still taped to the mailbox. One had popped, and the shreds of rubber were flapping in the wind like some sort of sad little flag. A couple neighbors waved awkwardly as they passed. One woman slowed down while walking her dog, looked at me like she was about to say something, then kept going. I drove away again. This time, I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just started planning something. not revenge. I'm not that kind of man. But something else, something colder, and it starts with a visit. Not to her, to Cole. I didn't know where he lived, but I knew enough. 2 days after the party, I remembered something stupid. Mallory once left her laptop open in the kitchen, back when I still made her tea at night. She'd been texting someone labeled as C on WhatsApp. I didn't snoop. I noticed it in passing while slicing lemons. I assumed C was her coworker Camille. Now I know better. So I did what any man who's been played, humiliated, and emotionally set on fire would do. I scrolled her tagged photos on Instagram. Not her profile. She wouldn't be that careless. But her friends? One of them had posted a photo 3 weeks ago. Rooftop barbecue, city skyline in the back, 6 people, 3 beers, 1 pair of familiar hands wrapped around her waist. I zoomed in. I paused. There it was, a blurred street sign behind them. And just like that, I had a location. It was a Sunday afternoon when I went. The air was heavy, still, like the sky was holding its breath. I parked across the street, engine off, windows cracked just enough to let in the sound of birds and the occasional dog bark. I wasn't there to confront him, not yet. I just wanted to see him, face to face. No cameras, no audience, no microphone. The building was one of those modern boxes, all glass balconies and smug architecture, like it was designed to scream, "I make more money than you." His unit was on the 3rd floor. I watched someone buzz in, and I followed through before the door shut. No plan, no excuses, just adrenaline and months of silence erupting into motion. I walked the hallway slow. My shoes were quiet. I counted the numbers until I got to 3C. I stood there. There was music playing inside, low, jazzy, pretentious. I listened through the door for a while and heard 2 distinct voices, Heron and his, laughing. Then the sound that made my stomach turn, her giggle. Not the fake one she used at dinners, but the real one. The one I hadn't heard since before we got married. The one she used when she was trying to be loved. His shoes were by the door, sneakers, expensive, spotless white. Next to them, a pair of sandals I bought her for a beach trip we never ended up taking because she had a migraine. I stared at those shoes for too long. I didn't knock. Instead, I crouched, pulled my phone from my pocket, and took a photo. The shoes, the door, the apartment number. I didn't even know why. Proof? Memory? Maybe just something to remind myself that it was real. Then I heard her say something. He still thinks we can talk this out. And then him? Let him. Guys like that don't leave unless you slam the door for them. My vision went blurry, not with tears, with rage, the quiet, coiled kind that sits low in your ribs and waits. I stood up, backed away from the door like it was a sleeping animal that might wake up and bite. I walked out the building, down the stairs, past the street where someone was teaching their kid to ride a bike, and back into my car. My palms were sweating. My jaw ached. I didn't realize I'd been clenching it for over an hour. When I got home, to the house that still had 2 toothbrushes in the bathroom and a marriage license in the drawer under the Wi-Fi router, I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I didn't scream into a pillow. Instead, I went to the garage, opened the old toolbox my dad gave me when we moved in, pulled out a tape recorder I hadn't touched since college. Because if they were going to make this theatrical, I could make it documented. The house had never felt that still before. Not when Mallory used to work nights, not when she traveled for that pointless real estate conference in Tulsa. This was different. This was hollow. Like the walls knew she wasn't coming back, and had already started adjusting, slowly rearranging their silence into something colder. Even the fridge hum sounded lonelier. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, the tape recorder in front of me, untouched. I hadn't used it since senior year. I used to record song ideas, interviews for freelance pieces no one ever read. It still smelled like dust and old leather. The play button stuck a little, but it worked. Red light and everything. I hit record, and I talked. Not like a podcast, not like a diary, just like someone yelling into a well, hoping for an echo. I spoke her name. I described what her voice sounded like the moment I realized I'd lost her. I listed every item in the fridge that had her fingerprints on it. Oat milk, turmeric shots, that awful rosewater hummus she pretended to like because her trainer swore by it. I read out loud the contact names in her side of our joint phone plan. I said the names slow. Cole wasn't in there. Of course not, but C was. I started building something. Something strange. Something I didn't recognize as grief at the time. I made a folder on my desktop, labeled it Residue. Inside it, I started placing pieces of her, photos she didn't know I still had. A video clip of her brushing her hair in the mirror, back when she still smiled at me through reflections. A screenshot of the first time she texted me, "I love you," without correcting it to "Louv ooh" afterward. A voice memo she left when she missed a flight and cried in a taxi, swearing she just wanted to come home. I listened to it 5 times that night. She was vulnerable in it, raw. She called me her anchor. And yet now, here I was, untethered, watching the same woman whisper promises to another man in a high-rise condo while I cataloged the ashes. But it wasn't about sentimentality. Not anymore. It was about preservation, about not letting her rewrite the story without resistance. The next morning, I bought a burner phone. I created a fake Instagram profile. No photos. Just a clever handle that looked like a brand account. Something neutral. I followed her. She didn't follow back, of course. But her profile wasn't private. That was her first mistake. She'd posted a reel the night before. Music, rooftop, friends, cocktails, a man's shadow crossing behind her. You could just barely hear her say, "Get me another one, baby." And someone off camera, his voice, replied, "Only if you say please." I screen recorded it. I slowed it down frame by frame. I sent the clip to my own email and saved it in the residue folder. And then I did something I can't explain. I texted her, just one word, "Please." It was out of me before I could think twice, before I could stop myself from looking like the desperate, broken man I'd become. I stared at the screen, instantly regretting it, waiting. And just when I was about to delete it, 3 dots appeared, typing. Then they vanished. Nothing came. That moment, that flicker, was worse than 100 lies, because it meant she saw me. She knew I was still here, and she still chose silence. So I did too. I unplugged the tape recorder, set it gently into the drawer where I keep dead chargers and expired batteries, and I wrote down 3 names, people she had mentioned casually over the last year. Men. Friends from work. Old classmates. People you wouldn't like, babe. The 3rd name made my hand shake, not from anger, from recognition. Because I suddenly realized something no one should ever have to realize about their marriage. Mallory wasn't cheating with Cole. She was practicing with him. The betrayal didn't begin at the rooftop. It began months earlier, and someone else had been her warm-up. The name I circled twice was Evan. I hadn't thought about him in months, maybe longer. He was one of those background characters Mallory used to mention. The type that slips into conversation like seasoning, not the main ingredient. A coworker from her old firm. A kind soul who helped her get through that awful January. I never met him. She never invited him to the house. But once she got defensive when I asked why his name kept coming up. Told me I was being insecure. Told me, "Emory, not every guy who listens to me wants to sleep with me." I remember exactly where I was standing when she said that, leaning on the doorframe in the laundry room, holding a damp towel I never finished folding. Back then, I nodded and dropped it. But now, I had every reason not to. I dug through old receipts, emails, calendar entries she left open. The deeper I went, the more obvious it became. Evan wasn't just a friendly shoulder. He'd been circling her orbit for over a year, gym check-ins at the same time, even though he lived across town. Dinner reservations she claimed were with coworkers. But his name was always listed on the email confirmation. The one that broke me, though, was a Venmo transaction dated 6 months before the Cole situation ever began. She paid Evan $26 with the caption, "For the wine you spilled." I stared at that winking emoji like it had personally stabbed me in the chest. That was the night I realized I'd never actually known when it started. People like Mallory don't make clean mistakes. They build them in layers. By the time you notice the rot, the foundation's already eaten through. So I found Evan on LinkedIn. He had one of those too perfect smiles. Not Hollywood, but practiced. His page was full of buzzwords: synergy, optimization, thought leadership. But his recommendations all said the same thing: dependable, empathetic, a team player. I wondered if his team knew he liked married women who wore fake smiles and turquoise rings. I messaged him, not as myself. I created a fake profile, someone from a recruiting agency. I told him we were assembling a private leadership circle for a fast-growing company in the wellness space. Something trendy and vague enough to appeal to his ego. I asked if he was open to a coffee chat. He replied in 10 minutes. That's how I got him to agree to meet. Tuesday, 11:30 a.m., quiet cafe on the east side. He said he could do 45 minutes tops. He didn't know that I'd already reserved the table next to his under a different name. He didn't know that I wasn't here for a job interview. I was here to listen, to study, to understand who the man was that had made my wife's laugh sound different. He arrived early, wore a navy blazer and a smug, easy walk, ordered an oat milk cappuccino, and flirted with the barista. I watched from 15 feet away as he scrolled his phone and checked his teeth in his spoon's reflection. And when his recruiter didn't show, because he never would, he didn't seem all that bothered. Just called someone, laughed, said, "No big deal, I'm out anyway," and left with a box of croissants like the city owed him something sweet for his trouble. And that's when I knew. It was him. Before Cole, before the fights, before the coldness and locked phones and the Thursday night yoga classes, it was Evan. He had been the prototype. Cole was just the production model. That night, I walked into our bedroom, mine now, and opened the second drawer of her old vanity. She kept little things in there, bobby pins, extra mascara, perfume samples. But under all that, there was a flash drive. I only found it because I was looking for something else. A pen, maybe. I don't even remember anymore. I plugged it into my laptop. Inside, there were 4 files, all named with dates. The oldest one dated back almost 18 months. I clicked on the first one, and then I stopped breathing. It was a video, just under 2 minutes, shot in a hotel room. I didn't see faces, just a voice, her voice, clear as day, whispering things I'd never heard her say to me. Not once in 6 years of marriage. She wasn't talking to Cole, she was talking to Evan, and she sounded happy. That's when it hit me. I hadn't just lost my wife. I'd been living in a body double's shadow for over a year. I didn't watch the other 3 videos, not right away. I closed the laptop and sat completely still, like the molecules in the air had frozen around me, and moving would shatter everything. My face felt numb. I didn't cry. That stopped being an option a long time ago. Instead, I let a single sentence repeat in my head until it no longer sounded like English. She made a file for him. A file. A labeled, sorted digital capsule of her betrayal, archived like vacation photos or tax returns. Not a mistake, not a moment of passion, a project. She built this, brick by brick, lie by lie. I looked around the room that still smelled faintly like her, vanilla, bergamot, something citrusy and expensive. And suddenly every object felt like an accomplice. The pillow she used, the coat she forgot to take, the framed wedding photo on the dresser where we both smiled like idiots, frozen in time and ignorance. I almost threw it, but I didn't. I'm done giving her anything loud. From here on, everything I do will be quiet, controlled, focused, because she wants me rattled. They both do, maybe all 3 of them. But they forgot something important. I am a man who remembers everything. So I started building something of my own, not a folder, a process, an operation. I wrote it all out longhand, like some madman journaling under flickering lights, but with total clarity. I'm not sabotaging, I'm documenting. Not for revenge. That's for people who want to get even. I don't want to be even. I want to be clean. When this is over, there will be no screaming matches, no broken windows, no restraining orders. Just emptiness. The kind you leave behind when you erase a person so thoroughly that no one even asks where they went. First, I called my bank. Not to freeze anything. I'd already done that. No, this was something smaller, pettier. I removed her as an authorized user on the emergency credit card I'd added her to 5 years ago, when she locked her keys in her car and had to Uber home. It wasn't much, but I wanted her to feel a shift, a glitch in the matrix, just enough to make her check her balance and wonder, that's weird. Then I went into the shared drive we used for house documents. HOA letters, vet receipts, warranty PDFs. And she had access on her work computer. I deleted all the files, every single one. Not because I needed them gone, but because they were mine. I left the folder itself intact, though. Empty, labeled important stuff, just waiting for her to open and see the nothingness. Next came the apartment listing, not for her, for me. I didn't want the house. Let her choke on it. Let her bring Cole into the kitchen I built and try to scrub my ghost from the tile grout. I found a studio loft downtown, small, clean, anonymous, 1 window, no memories. I signed the lease digitally that night. Move-in date, Friday. Then I made the final list. I titled it The Last 5 Things, the emails, every exchange with her, backed up, time-stamped, archived offline, the footage, the flash drive, cloned and stored in a password-protected cloud folder under a name no one would ever guess, the letter. A 3-page note addressed to her, not to beg, not to explain, but to acknowledge. I would leave it on the kitchen table the day I vanished. The locks, replaced not out of spite, but to mark the transition. You change locks on a storage unit. You change them when a lease ends. This was no different. The call. That last one was still undecided. I wasn't sure if I'd do it, but I wrote the name down anyway. Evan, and next to it, in smaller letters, just one conversation. No threats, no drama, just a mirror. Because the thing about people like Evan, they think they've gamed the system. They think they're so clever, so irreplaceable, that they'll always walk away with the girl and the clean hands. But what they never plan for is someone like me. Someone who doesn't yell, doesn't post about it online, doesn't start bar fights. Someone who simply shows up one day with a truth so cold and sterile, it lands harder than any punch. Because I don't want him to suffer. I want him to remember me. I didn't schedule the meeting with Evan out of anger. That would have been too easy. Anger gives people excuses. It makes you look unstable. It lets them tell themselves he just snapped. That's the trap Mallory expected me to fall into. That's what Cole, with his gym shoulders and half a personality, probably whispered in her ear on late-night drives. Let him unravel. That's how this ends. But I don't unravel. I document. I met Evan in broad daylight. A busy cafe downtown, high ceilings, jazz looping through a Bluetooth speaker. He walked in wearing a soft beige overcoat and loafers that looked like they'd never touched real pavement. He was taller than I expected. The kind of tall that makes people subconsciously yield space when he passes. Confident, trim beard. The kind of man Mallory used to say looked too polished to be trusted. Funny how that rule had an exception. I stood as he approached, offered a handshake. He didn't recognize me, not at first. Emory, I said calmly. Mallory's husband. The flicker in his eyes gave him away. A split-second flinch. Then he masked it with a practiced smile and sat across from me, like we were meeting to sign a lease. Right. Wow, he said, fidgeting with his sleeve. This is unexpected. I know, I said, folding my hands. I won't take long. I just wanted to give you something. I slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside was a printed screenshot of the Venmo transaction, a list of dates from her calendar that aligned with his business trips, a still frame from the video, not explicit, just suggestive enough to prove I wasn't guessing. But I hadn't come to accuse him. I'd come to remind him. He opened the folder, flipped through the pages. His breath caught on the 4th one. That's when the color in his face shifted. I'm not here to yell, I said. I'm not here to ask questions. I just want you to know something. He looked up, jaw tight. What's that? I leaned in just slightly, voice even. You weren't the only one. You weren't even the first. He blinked. Once, twice. Then the panic set in. That flicker of doubt that rewrites everything in real time. That gnawing voice in his head suddenly whispering, wait, how much did she tell me? What did she leave out? That was all I needed. I didn't wait for a response. I stood up, tucked in the chair, and said, I hope you're smarter than I was. I walked out of that cafe without looking back. I didn't need to. Because men like Evan don't react in the moment. They unravel in private, behind tinted windows and expensive curtains. He'd sit with that envelope for days, maybe weeks. He'd confront her, of course, but not right away. He'd let the seed grow, let it poison the air slowly, and eventually he'd come to realize what I already had. That Mallory doesn't build relationships. She builds performances. And every man in her life is just an audition for the next act. When I got home, or rather to the house I would soon be leaving, there was a package at the door, no return label, just my name, handwritten. Inside I found a letter, 2 pages, neatly folded. It was from her. She said she was sorry for how it all came out, that she never meant to hurt me that way. She wrote that she was confused, that she never stopped loving me, not really. And then, in the last paragraph, she said something that almost made me laugh. I know you must be angry, but I hope we can still talk. I hope this isn't the end of us. It was signed in her usual way. M. I burned the letter in a ceramic bowl on the back patio. No drama, just fire. A quiet goodbye, written in ash. That night, I moved the final contents of the residue folder onto a USB drive, encrypted it, and stored it inside a hollowed-out copy of The Art of War, a book she once gifted me, ironically, as a joke. And then, for the first time in what felt like a year, I went to bed early. No drinking, no phone checking, no tears, just sleep. Because in 48 hours, I'd vanish. And Mallory would walk back into this house to find every drawer empty, the key on the counter, and the wedding photo turned face down on the floor, cracked down the middle like it had fallen too far to ever be hung again. The day I left, the sun rose slow and gold, like it was in no hurry to see what I'd become. There was no speech, no note on the fridge, no messy confrontation or symbolic burning of her things. I had packed my car the night before, down to the last toothbrush. Everything else, the houseplants, the paintings we argued over, the espresso machine she swore made life livable, I left behind like a skin I no longer needed to wear. At 6:42 a.m., I locked the front door for the last time and slid the key under the mat. The silence was a different kind now. Not heavy, not haunted, just clean. Like the final page of a book you almost didn't finish, but are glad you did. I drove across the city with the windows cracked just enough to let the morning air in. I didn't blast music. I didn't play voicemails. I just drove, with nothing chasing me. The studio loft was smaller than I remembered. Just one large room, blank walls, tall windows with a view of nothing important. But it was mine. I brought in 3 boxes and 1 suitcase. That's it. No clutter, no artifacts. No evidence of the man I used to be when my name still sat next to hers on embossed mail. I unpacked slowly. There was no rush. Each drawer I filled felt like a choice instead of a burden. I set up a small table by the window, placed my old tape recorder on top, and pressed play. Just noise, static mostly. A few fragments of my voice from the night I broke. I let it run until the tape clicked. It didn't matter what it said. What mattered is that I survived it. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I walked, not to chase her, not to spy or spiral, just to move, to feel the world without dragging it behind me like a dead weight. I walked past strangers, coffee shops, bookstores, the sound of city life unbothered by my story. I was invisible, and for the first time, I liked it. There's a strange power in knowing you've been through hell and walked out with nothing, and still, somehow, you have everything you need. 3 days later, Mallory texted again. Just a single question. Are you okay? I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, because I didn't need to. She was asking for a version of me that no longer existed. I don't know what happened between her and Cole, or Evan, or whoever comes next. I don't care. That's not bitterness. That's healing. Weeks passed, I got a new job, met new people. Some asked if I was seeing anyone. I said not yet. But the truth is I'm seeing me for the first time in years. And he's more than enough for now. There's no punchline here, no final twist. Just this. One day, you wake up, and their name doesn't sting anymore. Their memory doesn't poison the good things in your life. You make coffee in silence, and it's enough. You sleep in the middle of the bed and don't apologize to empty space. You walk past places you once shared and don't feel like screaming. You don't smile about it either. You just keep walking. That's what healing really is. It's not loud. It's not viral. It's not a revenge body or a mic drop. It's just you, still standing, still breathing, still free.